Hello, everyone. As we mentioned, we at the end, coming to the end of the Toronto Caribbean Soccer History Project. And the end of the magazine is going to be with the evolution of the guys from the beginning, what they contributed in the development of the sport here in Toronto, and the end product with the guys who have made it to the big leagues. Big leagues as in starting with Toronto Lynx, whether it be Blizzards, Toronto Lynx, or whatever it was here, Toronto FC, and then Canada Soccer. So we're going to be putting on a gentleman. He's a gentleman now. He was, wouldn't say a kid, was a young man when he came on the scene. But he's going to be the embodiment of what we consider the generations, working with the generations of Caribbean stars. Um, the ones who learn from those in the beginning, third generation footballers slash soccer players here in Toronto.
All my intention was that to have something that represented West Indies and people, black people, would be proud of.
You know, if you were enthused with the foundation, the West Indies United, how we met here, the clubs, how everything was formed, you should be proud where we end up with the Ashtone Morgans.
Yeah, guys, thank you, Ron. Thank you for having me. I'm Ashtone Morgan. I'm a local boy from Toronto. Was able to play many years in the MLS with Toronto FC. I came through the academy of Toronto FC, and to be able to be a local guy and to graduate through the program and through the system of the Toronto Football Club. Yeah, it was a pleasure, and that's a little intro for me.
Okay, we have you in the Caribbean setup.
Mm.
So, what's your background?
My dad, he's from Jamaica. My mom's from Guyana. So, I'm Jamaican, Guyanese, and Canadian, So again, dad grew up in Jamaica, moved to Toronto at a very young age, moved to Parkdale specifically. Mom's Guyanese. She grew up in Hamilton, and then, later on met my dad, and yeah, so I was born and raised in the city of Toronto, downtown Toronto.
Okay, I saw you on the field in speaking of Toronto, I saw you on the field there in one of the first team Toronto FC game. What's your description? What are you still with the organization? You're part of Toronto FC still?
Yeah, so I work in player development. So I'm the manager of player development in the Toronto Football Club. So for me, I take care of a lot of the prospect players through the system, through the ranks. I also have some first team responsibilities where, Robin Fraser, the head coach, well, was one of my assistant coaches when I was playing for the club. And, so just to have that relationship with him and the ability to help and assist in any way possible I can for him and the football club. So yeah, from time to time, people will be seeing me, around the training sessions and helping out wherever I can, and on match day at BMO Stadium.
All right, and you think you with the academy teams too, right?
Yeah, so I also work in the academy teams. I do a lot of individual programming, the IDP program here, and for the player development to make sure our players have the appropriate progression through the system, and they have have guidance essentially. When I was in the academy, I didn't really have a guy like me, just finished playing, young, just finished playing, has bags of wisdom to give to the lads, and I feel for myself being in this role, I have a responsibility to be at this football club and to help the young guys that I once was, through their years and transitions in the environment here.
So, well, okay, sticking with Toronto FC, you had some you were there, I guess maybe in the early, I know you've been there around I can't remember when you actually signed, but you signed from the academy
Yeah,
program.
20,
You and Daniel Henry. Was Daniel
yeah.
Henry before you?
Daniil was before me. Daniil signed in 2010. I signed in 2011, but I played my first team match from as an academy player uh, against in a Champions League match 2010 at BMO Field against Arabi Unido. Remember that. I remember I played with Julian, D-Row, all these guys, so that was my first call up to play 90 minutes in a Champions League match in 2010. So that's when I knew I was ready for the big stage.
Yeah, okay. And so from that formative stage into the championships where,
Mm.
you enjoyed again some lean years. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, the Canadian Championship, that was the successful time, but we keep missing the playoffs. And I remember in one of the interviews in when they were doing all the signings that the playoff was seemed to be a bad word.
So development at one time last year, you had to come off the bench. You think you have grown since that time?
Yeah, definitely. I think that brief time that I had during last season, beginning of the season, it only helped me grow as a footballer. And footballers, they have their ups and downs, and you have to learn from those mistakes. And I feel like I've learned, and it gave me more fire to get back off the bench and get my starting spot back.
Okay, being as a new coach, you think you know exactly what the coach expects of you now. You know the coach philosophy on his game.
Yeah, definitely. It's always different transition when a new coach comes in, and some players take a little longer than others, to buy into the systems. But I'm all right.
Okay, and going into this season now with the new signings, the pressure is going to be on the back four. So how you look to face that challenge?
Definitely. Our back four, we like to weather the storm. Our coach puts us through it all the time in practice, and I think we're ready.
Okay. Before it used to be a little hush-hush, nobody wanted to mention it. You know what the objective is for this season, right? You know what the objective is? What the fans expect?
Yeah, definitely.
Could you tell us what the fans expect?
Playoffs.
So seeing that you missed the playoffs and into the championship, how you see that run? How you feel with that run?
Yeah, again, we were a successful team in Champions League. Canada had Canada Cup and Champions League. We were a successful team back then. I remember I first started in those tournaments, but then for some reason for the league, we just couldn't really figure it out for quite a few years. But, when 2015 came, we had a new identity, new environment, new culture within the club. And for me to be involved and still involved heavily in the club at those moments and those times, and just, can't forget where we came from, but we were definitely looking for the future. I think those were amazing moments for on the field and off the field for the city, for the fans, for everybody here, from the communications, to media, to the cooks, academy staff, everybody who was involved in this football club. It was such a special time, and again, for us, like, this is what we strive for every day, now and for the future, to live in those moments and to have these moments, because there were some great times, and I think us feeling it, and some of us now coming back in the fold here and knowing what that felt like, we know what we want to recreate and what we work towards every day while we're here.
And how was your whole stint with the national team? How was that?
Yeah, it was great. Again, I got to play with the best players. I got involved, I think early 2012 was when I got my first cap against St. Lucia. I think I remember got subbed in with Stephen Hart was my coach. He subbed me in to play left wing. And then I went to right wing, got my first assist. It was amazing. What an experience, but I got to play with likes of Julian, D-Row, I got a little bit of Paul Salter before he stopped. Kevin McKenna, all of these guys, Atiba. I played with some real legends that I've looked up to and I've learned so much from. I owe a lot of my success and a lot of my development as a player, but not only that, just as a man and as a young boy coming through this game and understanding that I had to grow up quick, and to have these guys as my role models, to sit next to Julian in the change room at Toronto FC and to travel to different countries with him for national team and club soccer. You know, he didn't have to take me under his wing, but he did. He took me under the wing, and I owe Dero, Atiba, Julian, these guys that I looked up to so much, and now, looked up to them, and then they became my peers, my teammates and my brothers, so, football works in mysterious ways from multiple ages, but again, at the day, we have that one thing in common, which was the football, and I owe a lot of my success and my career to those guys for sure.
So the balance now, you're still close to the ball,
Mm.
as I saw you on the field, and you're doing some administrative. So what's the balance? What's for you in the future in terms of administrative, or you going into coaching, or you're going into the front office? What was the big deal with that?
Yeah, again, it's the $1 million question everybody asks me. But, I never want to close the door. I think if I have the bandwidth and the capacity to be on the field, but also learn from, Jason Hernandez and Arthur and these different guys that I used to play with, whether it's in the academy or on the field. Jason being my GM now, but also being my teammate in our championship year in 2017. Assistant GM Arthur. We grew up together in the academy. He took a more of a front office role. And I'm back full circle in a front office role, but also on the field a little bit. So I have my peers that I grew up with and people like me, that I see like me in these spaces and in these rooms. I think it's pivotal and very serious thing where, people like myself, we need to be able to have a seat at the table to be part of these decisions, and again, I try to keep paving the way for others like me for the future. I play with a lot of players who look like me, I grew up with and all this stuff, and you know, at some point you can't play football forever, so can I also be a resource not only for young players, but a resource for those guys who are going to be coming next, so again, I take it upon myself to wear that hat, but I enjoy it, never close the door essentially. Just I'm trying to absorb all the information, just be a sponge. I'm still a student in the game, with all my experience that I have on the field.
So in terms of any community involvement, I know people in summertime, I know even in the States, the community involvement. I saw Justin Morrow sign some little contract with the
Mhm.
Caravana to have the Caribbean night, Heritage Night at BMO Field. So how community.
Yes, I do. I do. So not many people know, but I also own a small business. I own a cafe downtown. It's called the Sonder Cafe at Dundas and Shaw across Trinity Bellwoods Park. So I'm a small business owner, a footballer who love coffee, who also opened up a coffee shop downtown, So, not only do I do the football stuff, I also have community programs within the cafe and different activations and programs there too. So if you don't find me at the football grounds, you could also find me there too.
Justin still in town, or because he signed this contract, I think 2 years ago or last year,
Mm-mm.
maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, he no longer is here. He has taken another job down in the States. He's doing awesome work for the community. Still some touch points here, but not as fully as much as he used to have. But again, it was funny. JMO actually helped me get this role here at the football club. We were we were competitors here and teammates here. And but it's just funny when when you suffer together, you win together, no matter your differences on and off the field, when you do great things together in a team capacity, you forever have these memories with all these players, and you never know what kind of connections you have, So again, for me to come back to the football club, thinking I'll never be back in working in football again, it took some persuasion from Justin and Jason Hernandez to get me back in here to give my wisdom and speak the language like the young boys and give my guidance. So yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, I don't think it should have been much convincing because you're a Parkdale guy, you're right there by BMO Field. I mean, this is written, you have the script on this thing.
Yeah,
You're
100%.
always
Exactly.
that downtown kind of guy, man.
Yeah, exactly. So just again, to use that as one of my superpowers for these boys and for others from the academy boys or the boys who are in the second team or just, you know, that much closer to the first team football. I think yeah, using me as a resource and me being a resource here for them, because it wasn't easy for me coming through the ranks. I had to fight and claw away for every inch, every moment, every minute that I received. So that's also a bit of that Toronto mentality of that grittiness that you need to have to play at the next level, and especially to play for this football club. So however I can communicate that information in multiple ways. That's one of my jobs to do.
Yeah, and the next thing is we have Julian Atiba and Dwayne. And just capping the cover of the magazine, which is Atiba, Dwayne, and Julian de Guzman. You have any quick briefing on each one of them?
Yeah, wow. Again, I owe so much of my career and just me growing up as a young man to Julian de Guzman. I'm still in contact with him. Like I say, I want to be a guy, a pioneer to help pave the way for the next generation and for my peers and my teammates, old teammates. Julian was that and everything for me and a lot of people. I don't think he gets enough praise in the Canadian football history. I think Julian he's had an imprint on a lot of the younger Canadian generation, and I was so happy and blessed to be able to work with him, share a field with him. I remember when I was a young guy coming through the ranks of TFC, I wanted to sit beside him in the change room. I just to get his wisdom, hear him speak, see how he moves, he dresses, and how he carries himself. I think yeah, that's the big bro for real. Again, Dero, it's a full circle moment. I had to room with Dero and with national team, so I got to learn, see him shave, and I was using a straight razor, and I'm like, no, I need to use a straight razor too. So I was about to buy it. I practice on my arm to show him that like I was cool enough to use a straight razor too. And these are the kind of stories that nobody really knows about. But I looked up to these guys. You know what I mean? And now I get to work with one of his youngest sons, Adisa. So to be able for me to look after him just like how his pops looked after me is also amazing to do. And again, Atiba, greatest Canadian player to play the game for us. you know every moment I had to sit with him at a table at a meal, share the field with him, whether it's a or join a passing drill that he's in, because I know I'm going to learn and see something from him. So I definitely took a bit of something from those three gentlemen. And again, I owe them so much. I owe them so much. I know others like me will reiterate that about those three gentlemen there. I owe them, we all owe them a lot for our. These guys had so much influence on players like me, who like me, who look like me, don't look like me. I feel like from myself to others, multiple others. I think everybody would speak about these three individuals with such high praise. I think the influence they've had on all of us from a young age to growing up, from our first professional contracts to our last professional contracts. These guys have been with us or a phone call away or a text message away, for us whenever. So, I think I give these guys the highest praise I can, because, these are three legends. There's no one, two, or three. It's just they are three legends together that that deserve the utmost love and respect of Canadian football history. And again, for me, I try to emulate and copy what they did, and how they move, how they ate, how they walked, how they dressed. Have that little swagger to myself. Everything you could try to absorb from these guys, you had to. Couldn't waste those moments, because some guys were called into one national team camp, and you only got to experience those guys one time. I was lucky enough to play club football with Dero and Jules and experience Atiba as much as I could in a national team camp. So, you know, these guys they're the role models. So,
And just
and again,
I negate this one, but did you have any contact with Ricky Titus in the academy program or anything like that?
yeah, I did. I also played for Toronto Lynx when I was a young kid, and Rick Titus also was obviously playing for Toronto Lynx, so I was always in and amongst him and around him. My dad also knows Rick really well too, so I had those kind of connections from a younger age to see and be around all that too. So again, me being a Toronto guy and playing for Toronto Lynx, and they're no longer around, but again, to be able to play with that historical club in the city, again, not too many people remember Toronto Lynx, and I was able to be a Toronto Lynx alumni on top of a Toronto FC alumni. You know what I mean? So
Whoa, listen to me. Toronto Lynx is a big part of the Caribbean fabric because they used to come to the Sports and Family Day, the Hat Trail,
yeah,
the family, it was Duncan Wild.
Duncan Wild, yeah, Duncan
Yeah,
Wild.
yeah, they used to support the community, and
Yeah,
I didn't know you were part of that.
yeah. I have an old
Busby, were
picture.
you there when Busby came around?
No, I had an old picture of like others. I think first trip I went to England, I was like 12 or 13 with Toronto Lynx. And I have a picture of like there's actually some ex-professionals in that picture with me. I end up playing TFC and also in other multiple places as well. I gotta find that somewhere in the at the parent shrine. But again, with Toronto Lynx, you know, that gave me one of my first opportunities to like travel the world and and see how I compare to others in England and other places too, you know. So yeah, again, talk about Toronto through and through. I have that. I always have that with me, you know.
Wow. So it was Adrian Serio there? You had any taste of him?
Yeah, so I got to actually train with him when I was in the academy, going into the first team. So I used to get called up for first team training when I was in the academy. So Adrian was around too as well. And I remember him wearing Umbro shoes and stuff. So I remember all these things. Ali Gerbo wearing his XL shorts. You know, I remember all these things. I always wanted my shorts to be baggy like Ali Gerba's, you know, and all these types of things, you know.
And what about with Magic now? White O'Brien.
LeBron, yeah. So I was also in the academy when he was here playing for the first team of Toronto. So I got to experience him.
So again, any kids, family? You have a family or
Just myself, and my partner.
okay. All right. So I want to wish you all the best, man. This you give me more information than I even expected, man, because a lot of these guys in the fraternity that I wanted to mention, and because I can't do everybody, but you cover just about everybody,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So thanks again for the time, and
Yes.
you stay up, and I wish you all the best in your career.
Appreciate
Whether
that.
it go ball or but just a little reminder, you go in the coaching thing, you know nothing is guaranteed with the coaching fraternity. You have your education as backup,
Of
but
course.
passion is the thing that makes people do a lot of things. So it's up to you. If you enjoy it, you could always bounce, but
Yeah,
again, you're young, so you can take your chances.
for sure. For
All
sure.
right.
All
So
right.
again, thanks for the time, man.
Cool.
All right. Okay, it's a hi to your dad for me.
Yes,
All
100%.
right. Okay. All right. Bye.